President of Ukraine, President Kuchma, President Wisniewski, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Coming to Yalta, one must remember immediately a great author that has influenced our life when we were children and still is influencing the life of our children, Anton Chekhov. I thought that the real great dramaturgs of our time were Shakespeare and Chekhov. They didn't write musicals like in Hollywood. There wasn't happy end to their stories. They had different approaches. Anton Chekhov was raising a voice against poverty, discrimination, poor people. Shakespeare was raising a voice for justice, for freedom. Their stories were totally different. With Shakespeare, you have had heroes on the stage, fighting in a very dramatic way, and finally, by the end of the drama, all the heroes were lying on the stage, totally dead, with the spirit of justice flying over them. With Chekhov, no heroes, unhappy people, plain people. Everybody is angry, frustrated, full of complaints. Nothing is happening happily. But by the end of the drama, everybody is tired and disappointed, but alive. So, as a politician, I prefer the approach of Chekhov than the approach of Shakespeare. With all due respect, we have to fight the daily demands, the poverties, the injustice, the discrimination. And if somebody thinks that life stands still, I think he's totally wrong. Recently, an important journalist tried to explain what's happening in our time, and he says, until now, we have had 192, today 193 states. Every state was like a ship with its own flag, its own captain, its own plan of traveling, of sailing. Today, there is no more, and the task of strategy and diplomacy was to prevent crashes among the ships. So we shall remain alive. Today, all of us are sailing just on one ship with 193 cabins. Instead of being a ship, a nation became a cabin. And what's happening to the ship affects every cabin, and what's happening in every cabin affects the ship. If somebody in the cabin, for example, will begin to play with nuclear bombs, the ship is in danger. If the ship will go to a strange destination, we don't know. Now the global ship doesn't have a captain, doesn't have a flag. We don't know the voyage, where it goes. It affects each of us in the cabin, but none of us can affect the ship, including the major countries like the United States of America. So we feel like being in a ship with certain capriciousness, and we don't know really how to navigate, how to behave, how to go out. Looking at the old economy is no solution, because the old economy was based on accumulation, things, the wealth that we accumulated. And the great economists tried to analyze what makes you rich, what makes you happy. But this was analyzing the past. There is no more any economist that can analyze a thing that doesn't happen, namely the future. Now, the economy does not hang upon what we have, but it depends upon what we are going to discover. And really, the major factor of our life is science, rather than land, or water, or capital, or people. And all the attempts to learn from the past is in vain. Neither Adam Smith nor Karl Marx can teach us very much. They are totally irrelevant to what's going to happen. And as a result of science becoming the major factor, the old borders disappeared. We live in a global society. There is no more really national economies, only global economies. There is only national poverties. If you want to remain poor, you can do it as a nation. If you want to advance, you have to join in the global market. And the global market is a strange one. It's being affected by the people more than the people are being affected by them. For example, a good mood elevates economy. It has nothing to do with capital, nothing to do with wealth. You know, I saw when the Spanish football group won the match, immediately on the next day, all the Spaniards begin to buy. And the economy of Spain went up because of the victory of the football match. And who is the scientist who can tell us what will be the mood tomorrow morning? Unknown. And nobody can tell us what will a great scientist discover tomorrow. If you want to go to understand, try to understand the future of the economy, one shouldn't go to the banks or to the stock exchange. Go to the laboratories. See what is there. There is the economy of tomorrow. Nobody can control the scientist if economy is global, science is individual. And when a scientist goes through the customs, who can check what he has in his head, what may be in his head? And there is a competition. And when everybody is global, you know, it's hard to be a racist. It's hard to be national. You must have good public relations, goodwill. And today actually the business are being run by the companies rather than by the governments. And the companies understand that they cannot sell just because they have a good product. They have to have also good relations. Because occasionally decisions are being made upon your relations rather than upon your products. As a matter of fact, most of them are beginning to give back money to the communities. Rich people in America and in Europe too wouldn't like to appear, they're educated persons, they wouldn't like to appear as profiteering from the poverty, from the poor people. You know, if they'll do it, they'll face a revolt. And they're trying very hard to pacify. Then the governments are also standing, in many ways, helpless, hopeless. The governments today, permit me to say, are afraid to govern. They want to be all the time popular. You cannot govern with popularity. You have to change. And the people say that the government is so anxious to be popular, they stop to trust them. Say, look, gentlemen, you're thinking about yourself, not about us. And the concept, Alexander, about leadership has changed. A leader today is not a man that stands on the top, but a man that goes ahead. If you want to be on the top, the bottom will not support you. On top of all those problems, we have another one. A young generation. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody's asking about the revolt in Egypt, in Tunisia, in other places. But look at your own homes. You have a revolt in your own family. Your young children do not want to follow you. They say, we love you, we respect you. But actually, what did you do to us? You left us a war full of wounds, of wars, of discrimination. We have the right to build our own future. We don't accept your assumptions, even not about democracy. If our flag of democracy was free expression, their flag of democracy is self-expression. He says, if I'm young, they'll give me a microphone, I shall go and make speeches. If I'm young and I have an inclination to become a musician, or an architect, or doctor, whatever you want, I want to go my way. I want to be connected with all people. Now the individual person today, the individual young man, does not need the government. He has a iPhone in his pocket, so he has the government in his pocket. He has all the information he wants it up to date, right away. And they can connect everybody. They don't want that their parents will be in the business. They want to speak differently, think differently, dress differently, occasionally for good reasons. For example, when I look at the T-shirts and the jeans as a dress, this is a declaration for democracy. Young people don't want that you will know if I'm rich or poor. They want equality. And now the two parts of the youth are in troubles. The one who are coming from wealthy families, and the others who are coming from poor surroundings. The youngsters who are coming from poverty, clearly would like to have food, respect, future.